First, we have Sponsors of Literacy by Deborah Brandt. Here's a picture of her. This article actually appeared in the College Composition and Communication Journal. We call that actually 4 Cs, 3 Cs. I don't know. It's been expanded to 4 Cs. Those who are in rhetoric and composition. This is the primary journal for college English and college writing. And it's so, you know, to get published in there, you have to know your stuff. I think she wrote this article in the 90s or maybe early 2000s. So some of the key claims that she makes in this article is that access to literacy sponsors is determined in part by your socioeconomic factors such as race and class. And she gives us the examples of Brandt and Lopez, 2 different people who come from different backgrounds and their experiences. Another claim is that sponsors define literacy standards, and competition among sponsors determine the rapid post-war World War II rise in literacy standards. It has left many ordinary individuals unable to compete economically. And the key example here is with Dwayne Lowry, who even though he had many years experience in his job, was finding it very hard to compete with those people who had academic degrees. And so, you know, how do we adapt and change and you know, deal with it in our changing literacy standards? And then her last key claim is sponsored individuals can potentially misappropriate, appropriate, or divert literacy sponsors' resources toward their own ends. And she provides some examples of 2 female white-collar workers who, while they were trained for a specific purpose, took those things that they learned and put it to their own uses, their own ends. So I think it's a really interesting article. Again, it is long, so you may want to break it up over a couple of reading periods, or make sure that you're in a space where you can really concentrate and devote your attention to the article. It does get better after practice, and hopefully those of you who are juniors and seniors in the course have had some practice with reading these scholarly articles and picking out the most pertinent points. So the take-home points for Brandt is that literacy sponsors are any agents that foster, regulate, inhibit, or otherwise shape literacies in individuals. So it's not always people who contribute positively, but can also keep you from further growth. Race, class, and other socioeconomic factors affect access to literacy sponsors, and then, of course, to literacy itself. Competition among sponsors shapes standards for literacy. We can have far-reaching impacts on ordinary individuals. So I want you to think about this idea of competition. I mean, you know, you grow up with a certain group of people who may have certain ideas about literacy, reading, education, that kind of thing. And then you go away to college and you're in a different group of people, and suddenly they have different ideas of literacy and education and that kind of thing. So you can have that kind of competition among sponsors, and that shapes our standards for literacy, right? And can have far-reaching impacts on people. Sponsored individuals, as I said before, can misappropriate sponsors' resources for their own ends. So that's Brandt in a nutshell.